Recently, on January 23rd, the Doomsday clock was reset to just 100 seconds before midnight by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Midnight, in this case, means a human-made catastrophe or the end of humanity due to various reasons, including nuclear wars and climate change. Now, this is the closest to midnight that the clock time has ever been in its 75-year-long history. But before we get into the details of the reasons cited by the bulletin, let us learn a little more about the Doomsday clock. The Doomsday clock is a symbolic design that is projected as a warning about how close we are to destroying our world due to unchecked scientific experiments and dangerous technologies. The clock terms midnight as a hypothetical global apocalypse, and the bulletin moves the hand of the clock, projecting its opinion as to how close is humanity from a global catastrophe as a number of minutes to midnight by assessing it every year in January. However, there have been years when the time in the clock has remained unchanged. So let us see, when did this iconic clock come into the picture? According to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, the Doomsday clock was created in June 1947, 2 years after the first ever use of nuclear weapons during the Second World War. Among various prospects that led to its creation, the nuclear arms race between the two world powers, the United States and the Soviet Union, which emerged in the aftermath of the Second World War, was a prominent one. Before June 1947, the bulletin used to be published as a newsletter, and when it converted itself into a magazine, the clock for the very first time appeared on its cover. The graphic image was designed by an artist called Martel Langsdorff on the request of magazine's co-editor Hyman Goldsmith. Martel initially was considering a graphic symbolizing uranium. However, she listened to the scientists raising their concerns over the threats posed by newly developed nuclear weapons and their responsibility to create awareness on the matter. Martel realized the urgency linked with the issue, and she sketched a clock predominantly to convey to the public that humanity did not have much time left. On the very first edition of the Doomsday clock, Martel projected it at 7 minutes to midnight. She said, "It looked good to my eye." The movement of the clock since then is decided by the Bulletin's Science and Security Board, a group of scientists and experts in nuclear technology and climate science. The board assesses the threat level posed before the world in the past year and resets the clock in January of the new year. Now, as we know what the clock is, what it symbolizes and how it functions, let us try and understand the concerns raised in this year's edition. The main threats that the humanity faces remain from nuclear weaponry, possibly due to a nuclear blunder, and climate change. However, what got added to these threats was cyber warfare, which was termed as a threat multiplier by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Now, let's go back in time and see how the clock has changed over the years. The clock time has been changed 25 times. Cold War tensions in particular influenced major fluctuations in the time of the Doomsday clock, and we will here focus on some such significant fluctuations. In 1949, after the USSR conducted its first nuclear test, formally starting the arms race, the minute hand of the clock was moved and set just 3 minutes until midnight. This gap was further shortened to 2 minutes in 1953, mainly due to America developing a hydrogen bomb the previous year, which was capable of a large-scale destruction. However, a significant improvement was made in the time of the clock in 1963, when the US and the Soviet Union signed the Partial Test Ban Treaty to limit atmospheric nuclear testing.
The Kremlin, fortress of communist doctrine, is the setting of an historic event, the signing of an atom test ban. It's a jovial Khrushchev who is on hand, along with UN Secretary General U Thant, for the ceremony.
But when tensions heightened between the two major world powers and the Cold War was at a peak during the Soviet-Afghan War in 1984, the hand of the clock was again set just 3 minutes to midnight. However, the year 1991 witnessed a major reverse leap in the movement of the Doomsday clock. As a result of the United States and USSR signing the first strategic arms reduction treaty and officially putting an end to the decades-long Cold War, the Doomsday clock was reset at 17 minutes until midnight. This has been the farthest from midnight that the clock has ever been since 1947. Now, we should also talk about India and Pakistan in particular. The two nations have often found mentions in editorials and statements of the bulletin. But in 1998, the two neighboring nations influenced the clock to a jump of 5 minutes, from 14 minutes until midnight in 1995 to 9 minutes in 1998. Both the nations had tested their nuclear weapons in a tit-for-tat show of military power. 20 years forward, in 2017, the bulletin set the clock just 2.5 minutes to midnight, and one of the main reasons was reckless language and irresponsible commentary by world political leaders. Although the bulletin had regularly questioned inaction by world leaders and governments on reducing the potential global threat, it had not named a specific political leader. However, in 2017, US President Donald Trump's comments regarding the use of nuclear weaponry during his election campaign, as well as after winning the elections, were majorly highlighted by the bulletin in its statement.
You would rule in the possibility of using nuclear weapons against ISIS?
Well, I'm never going to rule anything out, and I wouldn't want to say, even if I felt it wasn't going, I wouldn't want to tell you that, because at a minimum, I want them to think maybe we would use it.
Now, here we are in 2020, standing closer than ever to global potential destruction and the end of planet. That will be all from my side about Doomsday Clock and the concerns it raises about the future of human race. And as we continue to witness conflicts and standoffs between nations that have nuclear power, thousands of animals dying in Australian bushfires and hundreds of people dying of heat waves in India, you should continue to grow your awareness about the issue and matters and the future of humanity. Keep watching Swarajya Standard. Thank you. Your support keeps us going.